In what may not be news you want to hear on a day like Memorial Day, a new survey is highlighting a new generational divide in patriotism from the young to the old. It recently reported in Newsweek suggesting that members of Gen Z and some younger millennials are less likely to describe themselves as patriotic compared to older Americans. The finding reflects that the broader culture and political shift that researchers have been tracking for years, particularly among the trust in institutions and national identity and perceptions of American history. Now, older Americans still tend to express strong traditional patriotism. Younger respondents often define national pride in more conditional or even critical ways. Researchers note that the younger Americans are not necessarily rejecting country entirely, but they may interpret patriotism differently than previous generations. Many younger adults associate patriotism less with the symbols and the slogans and the unquestioned national loyalty and more with advocacy for reform, social justice, or even accountability. Some argue that criticizing national problems can itself be a form of patriotism because it reflects a desire for improvement rather than just blind loyalty to country. Several long-term trends have contributed to these attitudes. Gen Z and younger millennials came out of the age during periods marked by economic instability, much political polarization, and social media saturation, of course, death growth going forward, and the global crises and dealing with trust in institutions. Not very well, I would say. Events such as the Great Recession, the COVID-19 pandemic, and racial justice protests, plus intense political conflict have strained the conflict and strained the consciousness, shaping how younger Americans are viewing government today, with the leadership and national identity being a totally different thing from older generations. Digital culture has also exposed younger audiences to more international comparisons, broader critiques of American systems. Now they can see what other people are actually saying about us. They can take that into account as well. Meanwhile, older Americans, particularly the baby boomers and the older portions of Generation X, are generally more stronger in emotion to attachment to traditional patriotic symbols and narratives. Analysts often say the connect to this is Cold War era civil culture and post-World War II optimism, and of course, stronger institutional trust from way back when, and different environments for education and media that are not what you see today. For many older respondents, patriotism is closely tied to military service, national unity, civic pride, and a belief in American exceptionalism, something that is still pretty strong, even if it's waning a bit in some younger generations. Generational divide over patriotism could influence future politics, education debates, military recruitment, civil partnerships, and cultural identity for many conversations to come for years. Political campaigns increasingly tailor messages differently depending on the age of the demographics and emphasizing either national pride or stability or reform and systematic change. Not all at the same time. Some critics worry that declining patriotism could weaken civil cohesion, while others argue younger generations are simply refining what responsible citizenship looks like in a modern democracy. They're doing what each generation does. They're questioning until they don't. The biggest problem is they're not coming to a don't section where they're kind of falling in line like older generations tend to do. Some of the positives, the pros for younger generations taking a different stance towards patriotism means that they may engage in more critical issues and more critical conversations with the national issues that there are right now. It also encourages a debate around civic responsibility and reform and reflects evolving perspectives on identity and citizenship. We are not the same as we were 250 years ago, so let's admit it and make the change for the better. Although declining national attachment may actually weaken some shared civil culture that we do have, and increased polarization can actually deepen a generational misunderstanding. More of the he, they, she divide we have, or the pro, con, liberal, conservative divides, may actually make this thing worse. Meanwhile, lower institutional trust may reduce the participation in traditional civic systems. More young people may want to basically tune out of the actual politics of politics, the actual policy of policy, and getting in early to get things done and keep things going, keep the gears going as they've been doing for 250 years, even with the changes we've had to put in place for the times. So is this a problem that needs to be fixed, or is this a problem that shows us that we need to actually step up and fix this? I guess the same question was twice. Is this a problem for all of us as Americans, or this is something that the young kiddos just need to fall in line and step into? That's where I'm going with this one. The divide in patriotism, even though there's kind of a lacking of it in the older generations based on how things work as well, you can sort of blame the current policies and current political nature that we have here. Younger generations are not just tuning out and saying, what are these old folks doing, and just eventually coming back to take their place. They don't necessarily want a place. So what do we do with this? Do we force their hands, or do we let us keep on going for a while? This is an interesting debate, interesting conversation that I really want to have some information from you guys. So let me know in the comments.